Hello everyone, welcome to Whack Comics. I'm here with my co-host, as always, Tyler. How you going, man?
Oh my gosh, yes!
This is amazing. I just want everyone to know this wouldn't happen on anyone else's stream.
No,
Okay?
it would
Get
not.
this done,
Oh
kid.
my god, it would be frowned
Only
upon by
the
most
best
people.
content over here.
Hey, we go live
Oh, wow.
and earthquakes happen.
No, you're not.
Oh shit.
Oh, well, it's about that time of the show, right?
Oh, must be. Are you ready?
I'm ready. I'm always ready.
Hello everyone, welcome to Whack Comics. I'm here as always with my co-host Tyler. How you going, man?
I'm going so good. How are you going?
I'm going good. We're doing a bit of a creator interview today. We've got some of the people behind the new Killeroo book. Let's bring them in. We got Darren, Ignacio, and Matt. How you all going?
Good.
Hey guys.
Can I call you Matt? Or is
Yeah,
Matthew?
absolutely. Just not late for breakfast. I'm happy.
All right. So I just backed the Kickstarter last night, and I just noticed that you've already made it over the 20K for like all your stretch goals. You've made it. How awesome is that?
That's pretty cool.
It's unbelievable, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Truly. The word that comes to mind to me, that I'm a Spanish speaker, it's a word that even in English sounds made up, like all words. I know all words are made up, but it's flabbergasted. I'm flabbergasted. It's a made up word.
Sure. Flabbergasted does sound like a made up word.
Kind of like Killeroo.
Yeah.
Very true. Very true.
It's a great made up word, though.
Yeah. I think I think there was a lot of worry going into, I mean, not from Darren's part. Like, Darren was confident from the get-go that not only would we be funded, but we would be funded at a very, high level. Some friends of ours as well, Mal Briggs, for example, he said, look, you guys have got a winning idea here. It's going to work very well. But I think me and Ignacio, as I'm a first-time comic book writer, and Ignacio is a very professional artist, has been working in the medium for such a long time, that I was very confident in. I think I was confident in everyone except myself, that I could actually, write something that would garner this sort of response, and to get to the 20,000, and that being said too, to get to that 20,000. It's been a lot of guerrilla marketing. Like, it hasn't been, we did try and work with someone for a little while. That didn't quite work out the way we wanted it to. But to market this, it's been us relying on our different fan groups. Like, I've got the Weird Crap in Australia podcast. Darren's been cultivating the Killeroo fandom for, over 20 odd years. And Ignacio has his particular following as well. So we brought, when I say particular following, it's like he has this legion of fans who love his work, and a legion of artists as well who'll back him up. So we all brought that to the market, and then just begging family and friends to do their best to either support us financially, which is extremely difficult at the moment for a lot of people, or at the very least spread the word. And just through those sort of guerrilla tactics, I think we were able to promote this campaign and, get it to the 20K. But yeah, I was nervous as hell. I think day one you were nervous as hell too, weren't you, Ignacio?
Oh man, I was shitting bricks, man. I was so self-conscious about my art, so scared, because we're friends. Darren loved it, but I don't trust 100% in my skills, and reaching that point. So the funding, the 100% funding, was amazing for me. It gave me a new level of confidence that I didn't have, and made me think a lot about how insecure I am about what I do. But I think we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Darren and what he has, the opportunity he has given us as a team of nerds.
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
I mean, sorry. To be honest, once the art started coming through, particularly the different colors on the first cover that we did, it just makes such a solid image, and particularly the sample pages that Ignacio had already drawn, like putting together the campaign page and all the graphics and so forth. It was it's the strongest campaign I've been able to run, primarily because of those graphics. And I think the only struggle is trying to get more people to view the page, because I think as soon as people do view the page, it's a pretty easy sell. You've got the people who love the Predator film. I think it's a very iconic kind of image, and if you throw in like a bit of Australiana and so forth, I don't think it's a hard sell. It's just a matter of getting people to look at it and then give them the choice of whether to back it or not. So I was anxious to start with. I think everyone who runs a Kickstarter always has some nerves at the start, but I was more confident about this campaign than the other two that I've run. So yeah, I wasn't completely nervous, but yeah, I certainly didn't think it was going to get to this size.
It's awesome. But I was looking through some of the stretch goals, and I got to say my favorite stretch goal is the trading cards. That's such a cool idea. How did you like just come up with the ideas for the stretch goals? Is like
that's all Darren.
Yeah, mostly it's Darren who put all those stretch goals in place. Like, every now and again I'd get a message saying, "Hey Matt, like, do you have any stretch goals that you guys could offer?" And most of the time, I think myself and Ignacio would come up short, and Darren would swoop in with that marketing genius and offer a couple of cool ideas. It's Darren. Darren's the marketing whiz. Like, I think you've even been saying, Darren, that other people have approached you to run their Kickstarters, and that could be a potential new business for you.
Yeah, I just signed a contract yesterday to run another campaign for someone next month, so we'll see how that goes.
Amazing.
But yeah, in regards to trading cards, like I've done a couple of campaigns before. Hey, folks. And we had trading cards for those, so it was just a pretty easy idea to just copy and paste, I guess. But having Ignacio on call whenever I needed new graphics, whenever I needed new graphics, like the turnaround was like the next day. Here you go, here's the art, and it just it's great to have a team that is that receptive to new ideas and puts the work in to get it done. So I've been very lucky with this campaign.
How long has Killeroo been around the scene for now? I swear I've he's been around for as long as I've been going to comic book conventions, at least.
Yeah, I created him back in '95, which is going back quite some time. But his first proper comic was, I think, 2001, and I've sporadically published books over that period. So yeah, he's been, I think I was at the very first Supernova, and there was a couple of Comic Fest events, which were the previous name for Supernova. So I've sort of been there from day one, and yeah, I've taken a few years off here and there, but I've always been pushing forward with the character and collaborating with other writers and artists like these two.
So I just want to say, Lee sent me this.
Oh, nice. Nice Ben Templesmith cover there.
Yeah, I remember when he showed me this the first time on stream, I was like, wow, that cover's awesome. I really can't wait to read that. And I open it up, and there's all these different artists that have done Killeroo in the same book. So we got this Killeroo, we've got this Killeroo, and then he sent me other books too. We got this Killeroo. So I thought that was super cool to be able to see different variations of Killeroo. I loved that.
Oh, cheers. Yeah, those two books were kind of me testing the waters in regards to. I pretty much just let the writers and artists just go nuts with whatever they wanted to do, and it was just an identifiable kind of model of the mutant kangaroo. But I sort of look at those as a bit of a mistake now in regards to doing it that way, and sort of completely letting go of the reins means that those books seem like there's like a whole bunch of different Killaroos running around. Like there's not really a lot of continuity from story to story. So with Scars, I think, which was around 10 years ago, Killeroo Scars, that sort of reset the character, and that's the one. So all the books after are all in sequence. So
I love that cover too.
I don't think it was a mistake, not to disagree with you.
Me neither. Me neither.
But the one thing I liked about it is that the artist got to take the story in a direction or maybe they wanted, and it made the art fit the story very well. I really liked how it each was so different, but still similar because it was the same character.
Well, it certainly allowed me to I guess better define the character. Like what each artist brought to it, I would just selectively take. Okay, I like how that looks, and I like how this one looks, and sort of merge them together for the ongoing series.
Maybe you wouldn't be where you are without that too.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Very likely, probably.
And I think it's almost like a rite of passage in the indie Australian comic book scene to write a Killeroo story. I don't think you're allowed to. I don't think you're allowed to make it, past that unless you write a Killeroo story. I mean, when I started working on the book, like I did what you guys are doing now, which is go through Darren's entire back catalogue. And, you see some names in there which are now, I'm not going to embarrass Darren, but, there are some names in those books who have gone on to do some, some big things. There are people who are working on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles that did some work with Darren back in the day. So it's like, those first two books, I think, are a lovely showcase of Australian talent. I guess you could probably think of them in the same way that people think of the Spider-Verse, Darren, all these different Killaroos in a multiverse out there somewhere.
Yeah, I do kind of consider them Elseworlds books, to use the DC term.
I've got the Kickstarter. I might just bring it up and we'll have a bit of a look.
Cool.
Have a look through it.
Maybe we can get a Killeroo multiverse collision where they all come together like that movie.
That would actually be a lot of fun.
Working on Killeroo Semper Fi has been a wonderful experience. I think not only because Killeroo is a classic Australian indie character, but also because it is so beloved by a very strong fan base, and that fan base has asked for a complete story for a little while, like a big, juicy story, and I think we've done that with Killeroo Semper Fi.
I have to give props to Paul Kagegi, who helped put that video together. I think it came up pretty good.
It did.
It's a great video.
Very good. Yeah. And it showcases the best part of the book, which is definitely Ignacio's artwork, not my writing. Yeah. That's yeah. I might be able to get people in the door, but Ignacio will actually get them to sit down and have a drink.
Well, thank you.
But yeah, it's even in that trailer, like I think one of the things that we said about with this project, in comparison to those earlier books, is this would be a solid story from start to finish, one creative team, one vision, one story, one idea, which Darren will correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think the Killeroo fans have been asking for a book like this for a little while, where they want, one solid package, and talking to some of the retailers who are going to be stocking the book, way after the fact. Obviously, our Kickstarter guys get looked after first. They're excited as well because, a mutual friend of ours, Mal, who runs Impact Comics in Canberra. He said, this is going to be a great way to introduce people to this character, where it's, you pit him up against a rather, unsurmountable force, like the American Marines. I mean, Semper Fi, the best of the best. And then you put them in the Australian bush, you take them out of your element, and then you put them up against something they don't understand, that they don't know. And I think it's going to be a really, really good primer. Like, if you've never read a Killeroo book in your life, this is going to be the book that will not only introduce you to the character, give you a fun adventure at the same time, and hopefully inspire people to go back and look through the amazing volume of work that Darren has already produced over the last couple of years.
Yeah, it's another good thing about the Kickstarter. You can get all the add-ons and add all the back catalogue of Killeroo ones, even just getting the PDFs of them.
Well, I'm sorry. I've sold quite a few full back catalogues, to the point that I actually have to go back to press with some of them because I don't have stock.
That's
good.
Awesome. Yeah.
Your artwork is amazing, by the way, Ignacio. Would you want to give us a bit of a talk of your process? Are you mainly do digital or?
All digital. I've been full digital since, I don't know, 5 years ago. It changed my life, basically, because I can produce faster and I don't need so much equipment like a scanner or big paper or whatever. And the amount of paper one uses when you're doing something like this, a comic, it's a lot. And I don't really like using that much paper. Thank you about the things you say about my art. This is a little departure from my usual style, because it's mostly a lot more cartoony than this and simpler. But this story needed a certain gravitas that my usual style doesn't have, because I don't spot so many blacks and I don't put so many details in the backgrounds. But in this comic, Australia is a character. The Kakadu Park is a character. So I did my best to start working in those backgrounds with intention and not a couple of lines and that's it. I don't know. The process is, I do a very rough layout with cyan and red colors to define certain things, the flow of the page and all that. And then when I showed that to Darren and Matt, when I get the approval of the creative team, I go directly to inking. I don't do a pencil version of the page. And after I get the approval of that ink line art, I move to color. The color on this comic, I have to thank Darren for letting me do this this kind of color that I've been wanting to do for a very long time, but the kind of projects I've been working on kind of didn't allow for this kind of coloring. And my kind of coloring is pretty bright and pretty cartoon. And this is more, it's a limited palette and it's really toned down. I'm going for a kind of a vintage look for the comic. And Darren allowed me, he told me yes to everything. In fact, he suggested I work that way, and I was waiting for someone to allow me to do that in a project.
And the beauty of it is I've been working with my printer already to determine the best way to reproduce this art, to have the finished book. And they have Jeffrey's Printing, they're helping me with that. They put together a sampler book that I'm taking to Melbourne Supernova next month. But it's all sort of on like a very textured paper stock, sort of almost old school newsprint. But it has a nice texture to it. There's already sort of a very light yellow tinge to the paper before it gets printed, and I think it really makes Ignacio's stuff look just shine. So it's going to be a really nice book to flip through when it's done.
Yeah.
How long do you reckon it would take you to do like just a page from start to finish?
Well, I usually go from all layouts for the whole book, then all the inks, and then all the colors.
Oh.
But I reckon, I don't know, a day and a half, 2 days after layouts.
Which is a bloody good turnaround.
Yeah.
You know, I think we're extremely lucky to have someone with the work ethic like Ignacio. Like I said at the top, I've been working with Ignacio for for 3 years, and he essentially, when myself and my wife Holly Soall, we started to put together a podcast called Weird Crap in Australia. And, each week we'd look at conspiracy and UFOs and serial killers and just very strange tales from our history. And so we needed some T-shirts. We started sort of getting to that point where we were popular enough to sell T-shirts, and I needed to find an artist. And it was amazing just how quickly Ignacio, applied for the job, sent me artwork samples, said that, this is great. This is exactly what I want to do. And, his turnaround was ridiculous. I think it was like 2 weeks. We had 3 or 4 shirts in our shop. Like the guy works like no one I have ever met before in my life. And I'll turn around. This is what I'll do to poor Ignacio. So he's working through this book. And I turned around to him just recently and I said, hey, once this is over, I think I've got another story in me to do. And I'm like, no doubt myself and Ignacio and Darren will team up on another Killeroo book in the future. I have no doubt about that. But I was like, hey, I've got this idea. So while he's working his absolute arse off to get Killeroo done, because that's essentially what his life's going to be like over the next, few weeks, few months, hopefully not years. it's going to be a long time, and we've just, thanks to the success of the Kickstarter, we're able to do even more than we thought we were going to do in the first place. While doing all of that, Ignacio is also doing another book cover for Weird Crap in Australia Volume 2. When that comes out, he's doing all of this promo work, and he's sending me sketches on this new idea we're playing around with as well. And the guy doesn't sleep. He doesn't sleep, and he's not human. He's just a workhorse.
Let me tell you something. I sleep, but I dream. I work. My dreams are of working. Last night, I woke up in the middle of the night. I was dreaming. I was drawing a background.
How did it come out?
Pretty good.
And I mean, like he's being modest, of course, but it like Darren said, we're never out of contact with Ignacio. When I wake up, the first thing that usually awaits for me is a message from Ignacio or a new piece of art to look at. And then he does seem to disappear for about 6 hours. And then immediately, he's back up again, and I get another message on Twitter with another piece of art or, another observation or, some sort of work to do. The man never stops. He's absolutely brilliant, which is, the same work ethic can also be applied to Darren. Darren is always thinking about, like Darren, one thing I love about Darren is there's always a drive to do better, to do more, to go high. Like, we hit our Kickstarter goal in the first 24 hours, and me, in my naivete, thought, okay, we're done. You know, we've hit,
Yeah, me
we've hit
too.
this goal. You know, in 23 hours, we've hit this goal. You know, so we're finished now. This is great, excellent. I can tell my friends and family that we've done it. And then Darren is like, no, we've hit our goal. Now it's time to work even harder. And thanks to Darren pushing us. You know, we've hit this amazing target that we wouldn't have hit without his leadership, without his motivation and direction. You know, it's funny. Like, they talk about imposter syndrome, which is one of the things I suffer from all the time. Even when, you know, we take a book to the market, we do a podcast, or I work on a comic book, I always have imposter syndrome. I'm always worried that what I'm writing is not up to snuff, is not, you know, is not justifying the amazing artwork behind it, or, you know, is not justifying the legacy of the character that Darren has put together. And I'm very concerned about that. It makes it even worse when you have these two powerhouses on the same team, who seem to be nothing but energy and work ethic. And, you know, I think that's, it's probably something that, you know, if you do want to work on a project like this, you do have to be prepared to sacrifice a lot of time. And I don't know two people who do it better than Darren and Ignacio, honestly.
The Halo slab is really cool, how it has the Killeroo on the label.
Yeah.
Lee was showing me that right before you guys came
I
on.
really want to get that. I got this one. I got the shirt because I thought it would be cool to wear shirts. The Killeroo shirt when I'm on stream and stuff, you know, for videos, can rep the Roo. But I'm thinking I'm gonna need to double down and go back for this slab because I love that slab. The label and everything is way too cool.
Yeah, I've been friends with Neville Howard for quite some time, and he does a podcast called Grail Hunters, which is all about, you know, limited edition comics and preserving, grading, you know, the investment side of comics. So he has a contact with Halo, and he's recently been doing custom designs like this for people like Tom Taylor and a few others, where collectors can get their rare comics signed and then sent up to Queensland, I think, to get slabbed by Halo and get them graded. So he's the one that came up with the idea of like the custom banner, and it's a really nice product. I'm probably going to get a few of my own books. They're just great to, you know, put on the wall. You know, it's a shame to have comics that just sort of sit in a box when you could have them framed and protected and sitting on your wall, sort of like a showcase.
Yeah, I can't wait to add it to the wall of weird once I get my copy.
I see this says it's signed by Darren, but is there any way you can get it signed by all three? It might be a bit hard with.
I'd love to, but it would require sending books to Argentina and back. And
yeah,
when you want to preserve, like, the biggest thing is they want to keep them mint condition, and I just have no faith. Not just in Australia Post, but international Post. Like, they would just get
don't trust the Argentinian Post, man. Yeah. Let me tell you something. There's a better possibility that I go to Australia and sign it, that it gets here, I sign it, and it gets back there in good shape. No. It doesn't work like that. I have a question. Maybe Lee wants the fire variant of the Killeroo slab design.
I'll take one fire variant for sure.
That'd be one of a kind right there. Signed too.
Yeah.
Here's my fire variant for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the Last Ronin.
Oh, nice.
Oh, that breaks my heart.
Until I saw the condition. Yeah.
Oh,
wow.
Just needs a press and a clean.
Yeah, it's signed by Jamie Johnson as well. He's a cool guy.
Especially because you know that book is going to be a chase book in the future too.
Oh yeah, especially this one.
Especially
this
that
is a one of a kind fire variant.
It's the only one.
Yeah.
I'm literally gonna send that over to to Tyler to get it slabbed from
Yeah.
CBCS or something.
Yeah, that's a sweet 3.0 book right there.
Yeah, I just can't wait to read the graders notes, to be honest.
We just sent a couple AOKs to some people that are awesome in the comic book community, and they were screen used Wack Comics books, so they got a 1.0 and a 1.5, and the graders notes were about this long. It was fantastic.
Oh dear, yeah, no, don't burn the Killeroo book when you get it. That's
Hey,
it
man,
will depreciate in value.
He bought it. He wants to burn it. Let it burn it.
Oh, yeah. As long as he pays for it, who cares what he does with it?
Exactly.
Famous last words. Famous last words.
No, we wouldn't do that. We would never do that. There's plenty of copies of Last Ronin. That's not hurting anywhere.
Yes,
No.
yes, yeah. It's interesting seeing what's happening. Like it's always interesting to see what's going on with the comic book world, especially because being here in Australia, we're like the second or third market that usually gets a lot of comic book material, and people don't usually think of Australia as comic book central. But there are so many independent creators out here too. People like Darren. He has a whole circle of friends who have all been producing amazing stuff, and I think just recently too, seeing the success that Tom Taylor, like they just give him whatever books he wants now. I think.
Yeah.
Just
for
like,
sure.
you want to do Suicide Squad? Here you go. You want to do a Batman book? Here you go. Nicola Scott, John Somrevro. Oh, I butchered that. Thank you, Darren. I knew Darren would save me there in the end. Like all of these guys, like they're now working in the Australian comic books, in the American comic book market. But it is indicative of how much talent's out there. And I think maybe I don't know. We've only got one American with us, so I feel like I've got you outnumbered. But it's interesting at least to see like an international appeal going into the comic book market, which I think is probably going to help it not stagnate as much as it may have. It goes through that cycle, that constant like reboot it. Australia has this amazing indie community of talented artists and people like that who are absolutely kicking ass. And not only that too, like Ignacio, like a lot of your South American friends are also smashing it in comics too.
Yeah. We have a good history of good creators. We don't have a market here, sadly. There's indies, of course, but there's not a market here. We don't get a lot of comics from anywhere. Basically, the things I read, I usually read them digitally. So when I see the speculator boom that's going on right now, it's all crazy to me.
I see it firsthand. I think it's crazy to me too.
Yeah, man. That's why I love what you guys do. Barbarian, it's epic, man.
It's just like the speculator boom. Speaking of that, the Fortnite book released this week, didn't it? This week or last week, and I saw it pop up on eBay for $85. Pretty much the day one. Let the kids have them. Like it's the next generation needs a couple of books. I can't remember which artist said it. I wish I could remember so I could quote him properly. But he hated the idea of people like buying a comic and doing what I do, which is backing, boarding it, putting it away. Like his opinion was like, read a comic, leave it on a bus stop for the next person. And I always thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, I guarantee Killeroo Semper Fi, if you get the proper Halo slabbed edition, is guaranteed to do something in the future. And that is as specific as I would like to be.
Yeah, you're on your own with that one.
Yeah, I'm definitely keen. I'm gonna How it's almost finished. How long have the people got to back this project?
Like a day?
Yeah,
I don't know.
there's,
You guys are in the future.
It's 52 hours to go.
53 hours.
We're nearly there. We're at the home stretch.
Hmm.
That means we have to start working on the next one.
I still have to finish
Let's get
one,
this
man.
one done first. eh?
Yeah, please.
I wanted to see Ignacio have a mental breakdown. That's why I say that.
Oh, you just wait till June, mid-June, when the baby comes, then you can see me break down.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna double down too. I'll be like, hey, where's that weird crap cover you said was coming? Let's add another 15 pages to Semper Fi. Why not?
Well, there's gonna be a couple extra pages that are gonna be pretty cool.
Yeah. Yep.
Thanks to the new stretch goal.
Yeah, I saw that. One of the stretch goals was some extra pages, a sketchbook as well, which I'm looking forward to. One of my favorite things is looking at sketchbooks and just like the process after you've read a book. Like I want to see how the artist got from what I'm looking at, to how they got there to begin with. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to the sketchbook in there.
Yeah,
for sure.
that's one of the things that I look forward to in books that I buy as well is sketchbooks and process stuff. So
yeah,
I'm gonna have to start working with that in mind, because I don't work with that in mind, but I think my layouts work like a good sketchbook, right? I don't know. I don't really know.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's going to look great, and yeah, we've we're able to expand the pages a little bit too. We've been talking about an epilogue now that we can do it, and I have to again, the writer does the easiest amount, the least amount of work. All the fellow comic book writers might kick my ass for saying that, but for me, it's going to be like a day, and then Ignacio. I say that Ignacio, I'll send him like 3 script pages, and he'll probably already have it done within 24 hours. It's probably done right now. I probably don't even have to write it.
I wish, motherfucker. I wish. I want that Elon Musk shit that he's gonna put people in the brain, and I want to plug it to my computer, and I think, and the page appears.
Oh, that'd be amazing. Yeah.
That would be amazing, but I still have to put as hours.
Yeah.
As I call them. But the one thing that I give you is that we think so much alike that I pretty much have the idea of how it's going to look, and you haven't even written the script, but we need just a little talk and we get it. Yeah.
Well, it was like yesterday. Darren's like, hey, there's a scope for a couple more pages to do an epilogue, and we can make it a bit more Rufus focused, the Killeroo. And I was like, yeah, no, that sounds good. Like that sounds awesome. And I said to Ignacio, okay, we've got a few more pages to play around with. This is what I'm thinking. And then he immediately just basically types the next sentences I'm about to write. And that's just how we've always worked on pretty much everything, which is, it's very rare actually to find another creative person that you are very, very in sync with. The only other person that's worked with is so far as my wife with the podcast. When we do Weird Crap in Australia, people say, oh, how did you get that chemistry? Where does that chemistry come from? I'm like, I dated her for about 2 years. We were engaged for 4 and then married for 6. Like it's that easy. Darren, that's right. That's how it works.
Just overnight, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Like working with Ignacio has been the most natural thing that's ever happened. And not only that, like our sensibilities are very much the same. Ignacio's only a little bit older than me, which means that like our pop culture, where we fit into that the pop culture timeline is very, very similar. So, I think like one of the directions in the script was like, Ignacio, make this look like the poster from Alien 3. And that's all I had to do. And now some people may decry that way of writing a script, which is fine. Like they're more than welcome to do that. But it's just this like little shorthand we have where we use pop culture so that I can get the idea across to him so much quicker. In that trailer that you guys showed earlier, there's this beautiful panel that he's drawn where the Killeroo is standing over one of our characters' podcast, and she's she's quite fearful of him. And I basically said to him, which is why I bring up the alien example, I'm like, I need this panel to have that very similar feel to the alien invading Ripley's space. And, but I don't have to do that. Like, I don't have to go through all that explanation. I just say to Ignacio, I need it to look like Alien 3. Do you understand what I'm getting across? And then he produces something like that. So he makes my, like, again, out of the three of us, like, my job is the easiest. And Ignacio is always able just to take my pop culture rantings and actually turn it into something that looks amazing. So yeah, we're extremely lucky to just have this creative bond that we have. Because I mean, we've been talking. How long's it been, Ignacio, that we've been talking about doing a comic for? Have to be about 3 years.
When was the you did an episode about Len Lawson, the guy in Australia that did the Lone Avenger?
Yes,
and that sparked my mind, and I told you we need to do this into a comic. Of the Lone Avenger and Len Lawson. We need to tell this story. We will do sometime. It's pretty heavy.
Yeah,
it's not easy.
That book. Yeah, that book's going to be a very tricky one. Len Lawson he was an amazing comic book artist, but what Ignacio forgot to mention is he was also a serial killer.
And a pedophile.
Oh, and a pedophile, yeah, and a rapist as well.
Oh my goodness,
he was a monster.
Yeah,
he was a monster, and he was writing and doing a comic about the most good aligned character.
That is crazy.
Yeah,
it's fucking bonkers, man.
Wow,
it needs a comic.
What character was he writing or drawing?
The Lone Avenger.
Yeah, there was the Lone Avenger, which was actually like one of Darren's friends that I've only heard of in passing, Daniel Best. That's right, isn't it, Darren? Daniel Best? Yeah.
Yeah, he's written stories about him, or actual accounts.
Daniel Best is like the historian when it comes to Len Lawson. But yeah, Len Lawson started his career basically mimicking American comics at the time. So the Lone Avenger was essentially derivative of the
Lone Ranger.
The Lone Ranger. Thank you, Ignacio. And then he also did characters he did a Jungle Woman character, which was very similar to Tarzan. But yeah, his books were extremely popular. And then when the Comics Code Authority was being built around the very poor psychologist who suggested that comic books were the downfall of society, Len Lawson was one of the examples used to suggest that comic books led to violence. So unfortunately, that's Australia's legacy to American comic books, is we nearly helped get them shut down. Batman nearly got taken down by an Australian serial killer.
Wow.
Yeah.
Poetic justice, man.
That's why we call the podcast Weird Crap in Australia. But I think we should rename it to what Ignacio suggested there, fucking bonkers in Australia.
Yeah, a little bit. But all this to say, how many times have we talked over the years but never talked in person? I don't know.
I think we started working together 3 years ago. I think that would I think Holly's watching. I did see a post somewhere in the chat, so maybe she can help me out with the exact timeline. But yeah, I think it was about, like, the podcast is reaching year 3, so I think we reached out to you within at least 6 months. So yeah, me and you have been discussing doing a comic for 2.5 years, and now it's finally happened. Sometimes you just
Darren made it possible.
Yeah, he did. He absolutely did.
Yeah.
I was having a good laugh before we started. All three of you have never spoken like this until now.
Never.
No, like,
and we
yeah.
and
Yeah.
we have to do a podcast about the project, and I told
Yes.
them we need to wait till the project to stop. I don't want to do it now. I want to do it when the project is done, because so then this happens, and we finally
we'll have
meet
it
each
as
other.
like a companion podcast to the book. So when you're reading the book,
Yeah.
I think that's how it'll probably work best.
Yeah, we'll be able to. It'll be like a commentary actually. So we'll. There we go. Holly just sent this through. Ignacio, 3 years. He joined us for We Crap in Australia about 6 months in. So you were pretty much there day one, man. Relatively speaking, because we refer to him as our in-house artist when we're pitching to advertising companies to make us sound bigger than we are. We're like, Ignacio said. He's on our team as our market, as our media executive and artistic creative executive and all sorts of things like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to put together this podcast, a working commentary, and the way we're going to do that logistically, because I'm the audio guy, I'm the podcast guy, so I can at least bring something to the table there. We should be able to generate a unique code. A unique link, which Darren could just easily email out to the Kickstarters, the Kickstarter backers, and then that way, I think we'll be bringing something very unique to those guys as to the backers. They'll be able to listen to a commentary track for a podcast for a comic, which I don't think. I don't want to say no one's done it. I'm sure someone's done it.
Yeah,
but I think it's cool.
We had Livio Mandelli. Is that how you say his name, Tyler?
Livio Ramondelli.
He from Killock, and he did the same sort of thing, like a commentary sort of track for each issue of the Killock, and it was amazing. We told him that we wish more artists and creators would do that, so I'm glad that you are doing that.
It elevates it so much more. He even pointed things out in the book that I didn't notice. That there was this one planet they went to in the book that was actually on a dead robot's spine. And when he pointed that out, like, I recognized it right away, but I didn't recognize it when I saw it the first time because it was like off in the distance. So I just thought that was so cool. It's like it adds so much more to the story.
It just, I think it just got me a bit excited when you said that. It's like another creator's doing the thing that we said was a good idea. That's awesome.
Yeah.
No, I think it's a great idea. But yeah, like Ignacio said, this is the first time the three of us have ever seen each other through like face to face. Obviously through a computer screen. But I mean, I don't even know how me and Darren became Facebook friends. I think I posted some witticism about how much our government sucks ass, and I think he saw that and sent me a friend request, and I was like, well,
probably something like that.
Yeah. And then I approached him to do a podcast for us on Weird Crap in Australia. I asked him if he would be willing to record something for us because Killeroo is a fun Australian character and we like to spotlight as many people on the Patreon side of things as we can. And Darren mentioned when we were doing that, he's like, I said, you've had so many different writers and creators working on your books. Is that something you do often? Do you like to collaborate with people? And he said, yeah, I've worked with a lot of people. I like people, working with my character. And it just got stuck in my head. And I said to Ignacio, I was like, hey, I'm really thinking about pitching to this guy. What do you think of this character? And Ignacio fell in love with Killeroo as soon as I sent him artwork. And then Darren does this other amazing thing. See, Darren is very supportive of artists and writers. I don't think people realize just how important people like Darren are to aspiring creators. I didn't have an agent. I haven't written a comic book script before. I just brought enthusiasm to the table. Again, out of the three of us, I'm the least talented. And Darren still... Darren still, not only accepted, because I sent him a message after he'd done his Killeroo month. What's the Killeroo month called, Darren? That you do on social media?
Yeah, Ruvember.
Ruvember. So Darren does Ruvember, and Ignacio being the dude that he is, like we'd gone back and forth on an idea, and Ignacio was like, okay, I'll do some promo art. We can use that to promote. And he shoots me a message, and he's like, hey, Darren's doing this Ruvember thing. Should I shoot him it out? Should I show him what I've been working on? And I'm like, yeah, fuck it. Like, let's test the waters. If he's responsive to your artwork, I'll give him a call and see if maybe we can pitch something. So that's how we tricked you, Darren. And and so Darren was like really digging on it. He's like, hey, look at this artwork I was just sent. This is really cool. So I contact Darren. I was like, hey, I've worked with Ignacio for a while. We want to pitch you something. And so I was sort of explaining my pitch. Darren let me go through the whole pitch and then goes, no. And I was like, oh, my heart breaks a little bit. And I said, okay, I'm determined. I'm not going to let this opportunity pass me by. And I was like, okay. And he's like, look, we're working on this other book, and this other book's also came out. The themes are really too similar, and it just doesn't work. And I was like, okay, so I'll take out this element, this element, this element, and this element. And he goes, no. And I'm like, okay, I may not be working with this guy at all. And I just, it's like buy dreams just floating away. And I said to him, well, look, the one thing that's really that I would really love to explore, and again, we've got an American in the audience, so that's awesome. Like, I said I'd love to explore the themes of American interventionism, especially from a military perspective. And that's when Darren turned around and go, well, I've always wanted to see Rufus in a like Predator-like setting where, here's the unknown element, these people who are trained to be able to survive any situation. They haven't met anything yet like the Killeroo. And he's like, would you write Killeroo in the style of like Predator, like that film? And I was like, oh yeah, I can write that. And and going through that process from start to finish with Darren, pitching to Darren. And I said this in one of the Kickstarter updates. A no from Darren is not a no, I'm not going to work with you. That's not what no from Darren means. No from Darren means we will continue to work together until we find a project that works for the both of us. And it's and just like it's very rare to find a creative person like Ignacio that you just align with very, very quickly, it's also incredibly rare to meet someone like Darren who encourages new people to get into the industry. There are so many gatekeepers out there. Luckily now, like now we have YouTube. Now we can do podcasts. Now we can do Kickstarter. Those gatekeepers that used to shut the door on interesting talent, they can't do that anymore. And but there is still this element of ownership with certain people you're going to meet in the independent sphere as well. You're always going to come across those gatekeepers. But Darren is not a gatekeeper. Darren is someone who finds new talent, encourages them to work, and will work with you until you find something that you're going to be both happy with. And like I said, like when it comes to Darren, a no from Darren is not no, I'm not going to work with you. It's let's find a project to work with together.
Well, it's also a little bit tough because you can't read my mind, and pretty much most of what Killeroo is in my head. So I sort of know his life cycle of when he was born, how he dies, and what happens in between, and how he thinks. And that's not something that I've really put down on paper as a manual for people to go, okay, I've got a Killeroo story and I know how Darren likes it. Like, no one really has that. So it's always a little bit of a back and forth, trying to explain how that character sees the world and what exists in that world. And, patient people like Matthew will listen and actually try to work with that. But it does make it difficult for people to pitch, because probably the most common thing I get is people saying, well, he's a mutant kangaroo. How about if he's up against like a mutant crocodile? And I'm sort of like, I have to explain that, no, the idea of Killeroo, at least in my head, is that he is unique in this world. Like, there aren't lots of other mutant characters and so forth. So that becomes a difficult thing to get across to people, because, well, he's a mutant, then why can't we have others? And I'm like, well, then that diminishes his uniqueness in the world that he inhabits.
Because there aren't. That's why.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that was the whole idea. Really, was an Australian Bigfoot. Like, is he real? Is he not? There's sketchy, dodgy photos of what might be. Just keep the character sort of shrouded in mystery, at least in his world. And the reader for Killeroo comics obviously go, okay, he is real. But there's been a few stories where I think there's a Gang Wars story where there's a team of documentary makers that go out into the outback trying to find him. Is he real? Is he not? And they talk to people that are eyewitnesses, and the stories, it's like pub stories, it changes with every telling. So yeah, that's a difficult thing to get across to some people who like to pitch stories. But like I said, Matthew was patient enough to hear me out, and we worked out something that worked for him and Ignacio and for me. So I think it's going to be a great book.
Yeah.
Dude,
Yeah.
I just wanted to draw the Killeroo. So
Yeah.
ready?
Sometimes it's as easy as that. Hey, Ignacio, you want to draw a giant kick-ass mutant kangaroo? Yes, Matthew, I would like to draw that. That's pretty much how it played out with Ignacio. He was very keen to jump straight in. But I think that's the appeal of Killeroo. It's like, it's normal Australia. Like, that's the thing about it. It's the Australia that you live in right now, except for this one unusual element. Like, that's the only thing that changes. Like, it's still exactly the world you would inhabit. And I think that's why I was attracted to it in the first place, because with my work through Weird Crap in Australia, I was able to incorporate that into writing this book. One of the facilities that are shown in that trailer is Pine Gap. Pine Gap exists. It's an Australian military base that on the books, they say it's basically helps to facilitate the logistics of the drone program. But off the books, it makes up what's called the Five Eyes Surveillance, which is an alliance between Canada, America, Australia, New Zealand, and the UK. And I love incorporating those elements into the book. And that because what it does, as a writer, it's a shortcut. If you can find as much reality to infuse in your book as possible, then that will build a believable basis for your audience. It takes out so much of the guesswork. It's like, I'm sure a lot of you guys and a lot of people listening and watching will most likely know what Dungeons and Dragons is. But Dungeons and Dragons just doesn't happen overnight. A dungeon master has to build his world, build his storylines, build out his characters. If you're a writer and you're able to just to borrow on reality, you're able to build a believable and convincing world, which is what we've done for this book, especially. Like, even when they go and recruit the military to go solve this little problem that they've got in Kakadu forest. I'm not gonna spoil it on people, but when they hire these guys, they hire them from Darwin. And the reason I picked Darwin is because that's where the American Marines are stationed here in Australia. You know, so, but it's going to be one of those things where, you know, people who have followed my podcast for a long time are going to get a little bit more value out of the book. But, you know, it's allowed us to build a really realistic foundation on a very unrealistic concept.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah, we are nerds.
Yeah, we're nerds. Yep.
I'm really looking forward to reading, and I hope everyone that's been watching will go and back Killeroo. And are you gonna back it, Tyler? You better back it, Tyler.
I'm gonna back it. How many hours do I have?
It was
52.
50 hours. It says on my screen.
50 hours. There you go. We got 325 backers. That's awesome, man. That's so cool.
That's awesome. It's incredible.
It's amazing. Yeah.
But we're coming up to over an hour, so we're going to start wrapping it up. I've got the link in the description for anyone that's watched this on the rewind for the Kickstarter, also for Darren and Ignacio's Twitter and Instagram, and just Matthew's Twitter. Everything's in the description if you want to find them all and follow them all and keep up with what they're all doing. But did you just want to one last plug before you go? Anything you wanted to say before?
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone, you guys and the backers and whatever people access from now on. Thank you. This is amazing. I'm gonna cry. I'm not gonna talk anymore.
I'd echo that as well. Everyone needs to go find Ignacio on Twitter. I would say, like, his this little gem that's just been hidden away on the internet, and that, you know, we need to see more people checking out his work. If people want to hear more from me, the only plug I'll plug is Weird Crap in Australia, where everywhere you listen to podcasts, we come out once a week. I do that every week with my wife. We find the most unusual tales from all around, and we put that into an episode each week. We wouldn't be doing Killeroo Semper Fi without that podcast, so it's becoming more special as time goes on. People can check out Weird Crap in Australia wherever they find podcasts. And please, if you haven't backed it, back the Killeroo Semper Fi. Like, it's a great comic. I've been reading comics for years. I want to own it more as a comic book fan than as the person who's written it. So yeah, just go check it out.
As Ignacio just said, you know, I think all three of us have enormous gratitude for everyone who's supported the book so far, and I, in particular, for people like yourself, Lee, that's been following Killeroo for years. You know, it makes it all worthwhile. You know, sometimes I'm kind of a hermit, so I just sit here and make comic books about a big kangaroo, and I sort of sometimes self-doubt creeps in, and I'm like, does anyone really care about this stuff? And it's nice to have not just the support shown from Kickstarter, but from individual readers that have picked up a book and enjoyed it. So it means a lot. So thank you.
Yeah, I think a lot of us comic fans are hermits, and we think the same thing. Like, I wonder if anyone else is just sitting here reading like me on a Friday night.
I wonder if anyone else wants to burn this cover.
Lee, do you think this sounds like a banger? What do you think?
A banger?
Yeah.
It sounds a bit like a banger.
Yeah, I think Killeroo is going to be a banger. Let's see if it's a banger.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Warning, banger alert. Oh my fucking god, look at that fucking god. Look at that. Holy shit, look at that. Holy shit.
Hey, look. As they saw me, they came bounding over. And I just made it.
Wow, that took me back. I remember that clip when that came out.
Yeah.
Good time.
I saw it yesterday.
Yeah. And if I can as well, just a very quick shout out to Sue. I see her comment right down there at the bottom there. Sue's been one of Weird Crap in Australia's biggest supporters, and she loves your t-shirts, Ignacio. So she's a fan of both of us.
Thank you, Sue. Thank you. very much.
Thank you all three of you again for coming on with us. It was great to talk to you and hear more about the new Killeroo book coming out. I hope everyone is excited as I am. Anything else you want to say, Tyler?
No, of course not.
All right. Cool. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Bye.